you can't really allow yourself as a manager just to use this survey once in a year or something like that to understand your team dynamic better. It doesn't make sense in today's atmosphere.
Shiran Yaroslavsky, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I am fantastic, but first I want to hear you're just around, you said Yellowstone, making your way to Oregon with a laptop on your bag, in your bag as a digital nomad for the next couple of weeks, right?
Yeah. So my story is just for a bit of background. I relocated to the US in last November, and I was planning to explore the US, and then COVID hit us, and everything is in lockdown, and I live in the Bay Area, so I'm waiting for my hairdresser, for 5 months now. So I'm like, we were working from home, and we're working for so many hours, and we just decided, my husband and me, just to pack our stuff and just go and explore the US a bit. So I'm now working a lot, but also had the pleasure to enjoy Yellowstone or Grand Teton, now Oregon.
So how does it work? Do you actually literally have your laptop in your bag as you drive around, and whenever you get to stop somewhere, you do the work, and then you get to travel and see some nice views and different hikes?
Yeah, so usually we choose an Airbnb with a very good internet.
Yeah.
This is number one. And then we try to, if we manage to finish the day a bit early, then we manage to hike a bit and explore in the area. But if not, only just the weekend is amazing. You get to see really amazing sceneries these days, and there is no so much people around.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
This is the perfect time, Sharon. That's amazing. So I want to go back to your journey, lawyer, Jolt, so many different companies along the way, and all of a sudden, I just love personally Jolt. Roy and Nadav are such great people, and now most recently the CEO and co-founder of Cassiopeia, probably the most relevant thing I've heard in the COVID age. But he didn't start this startup during the COVID times. He started it a while back. So tell me a little bit about what Cassiopeia is, and the journey that took you to create it.
Sure. So my background is in product management. I led product teams in Israeli tech, in small companies, large companies. I also led the product management course at Joel, as you mentioned. It was amazing to just teach other product managers, about the practices and methods.
So you were actually a teacher for a course, right? From one of the courses that they offer.
Yeah, I was
That's
the
so cool.
moderator of one of the courses. Yeah, it was amazing. And as you mentioned, so my training is in I'm a lawyer by training, so I hold bachelor and master degree in law, and so yeah, this was in another life. And when I was working as a product manager, me and a few other friends were gathering, thinking about how we can use technology to improve workplace environment, and we were very passionate about that. And because of personal experience we had.
So tell me about that specifically. Why change the workplace environment now? And what year are we talking about?
So we started when I think it was 2017, when I'm still was working, and we were
no COVID yet.
No COVID, no, not yet. And we were exploring about how we can use technology to just empower managers to improve workplace environment. And we realized that with our background and our knowledge, we can create a technology that can analyze different communication patterns. So data like who sent to whom and when, no text involved, and just provide insights about team behavior.
But what bothered you about the work? What bothered you about the way that things were happening? Because in tech, it's all about efficiency and productivity. What was wrong with the way that things were happening in 2017 that you felt like you had to go and think of ways to improve the workplace?
Yeah, I think in 2017, so we had our own personal experience. Some of the co-founders experienced exclusion or aggressive behavior. And we felt, with in 2017 also the Me Too just exploded. There are
Right.
some use just cases in Israel about sexual harassment in the workplace that was also very very in the day-to-day talk, I would
Right.
say. And this is something that really bothers us, and we thought about how come we're so data driven about everything in our life, but when it comes to people experiences in the workplace, we are just about some just just using some kind of just sort of
Our
sense, try
intuition.
to sense stuff,
Right.
or or if we hear some rumors about it, we're not data driven at all. So we
Right.
thought how we can use our technology, our experience in order to help managers to do it better.
So okay, so what are some of the things that you're actually using this data for, and how does it actually work practically? I'm assuming that there were dramatic changes from the way that your solution was adapted in 2019 versus 2020, and we'll get to that. But first, take me back to 2019. We're in the workplace. You know, you go to meetings. You do different projects. You send different emails. Where does Cassiopeia go into this whole pipeline of work?
Yeah, so what we do, we just gather the data from email, from Slack, so the chat platform, also Microsoft Teams, from calendar, and from the video platform. And we just take the data, as I mentioned, just the metadata. So data like who sent to whom and when. It takes between 10 to 15 minutes to finish the technical onboarding. And that's it. And then we're just ready to go, sending weekly email reports to managers with the most relevant insights for them for this week.
So give me examples of some insights that I might be getting as a manager if I'm leading a team of engineers or product managers in a startup. So what are some things that I would be getting in my weekly summary?
Yeah, so it really depends on you as a manager. So part of the onboarding process, you as a manager would be able to customize your report. Basically decide what kind of insights are more relevant for you and what you would like to see in your report. But there is different insights about collaboration. For example, collaboration within your team, but also between teams. If there is a drop in collaboration between two teams, you will know about it, for example. About new employees, onboarding new employees these days is extremely challenging.
Yeah.
So a lot of insights about that. So for example, if we see new employees in certain department that are less connected compared to their teammates, are less engaged. So we also will highlight it for managers to just for them to be aware that they need to provide more support for these employees. So a lot about that, communication, how to optimize our communication within the company.
Right.
So a lot of things that basically every team needs these days.
I mean, it sounds to me like what you're opening up here is this opportunity where if I'm the CEO of a company, I can come and say, well, the culture that I want to have in my company is I want people to be communicating very efficiently. So I'm expecting them to be on Slack and answer promptly to others. I'm expecting them to finish their meetings on time and not schedule back to back. If I'm setting sort of these cultural guidelines and all of a sudden I can come in and see, okay, what's actually happening in my 1,000 person organization? Are people actually having like 6-hour meetings a day instead of just doing deep dives? Maybe we have to teach people how to have better meetings or be more efficient in their Slack communication. So that sounds hugely relevant. But how did you deal with the fact that a lot of the meetings don't take place over video or over Slack? A lot of them are, let's go to the water fountain and have it and speak next to like we do in school.
Yeah, so we're working mostly with teams that are working remotely. So almost all communication is online. And when we're talking to remotely, there is the reason it's so relevant these days, is that when you're talking to remotely, there is what they're saying in different ways and different variations, but they just describe that as a manager, remote manager, you're basically working with a smaller data set. So you don't have all these small data points you used to have in the office. You don't see how people engage, with whom they drinking coffee with,
right?
If they're smiling during the day. You don't have it anymore. And so, as a remote leader, there is a gap here that is just was created. And what we do at Cassiopeia, we're helping them to close that gap, just providing them the insights they need to get a better sense of their team dynamics and spot some issues in a timely manner. So, yeah.
And so, okay, so now we've reached 2020 and the world has basically turned upside down. Every company that tried to remain a social company in the office is forced into this remote environment. I was onboarded into Hippo Insurance as a remote employee. So I never actually met my manager face to face, even though we often are 1 mile away from each other. But so I think that I had a privilege in having sort of this introduction into this remote work, having been onboarded back in mid-March, right when this all started, and I got to see, okay, what are some of the challenges of onboarding. And actually I have to say that Hippo did a fantastic job with that, but I can see why it could be so challenging. So what has changed in terms of Cassiopeia over the last 6 months or so since COVID began?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, Cassiopeia, we were providing insights about team behavior.
Right.
And in 2019, we were focusing on providing more insights about non-inclusive behavior. So more about aggressive behavior and exclusion. We work with large companies, mostly in the US and the UK. And when COVID hit, two of our customers reached out to us and told us, this whole remote work thing is really challenging for us. Most of our managers are not used to lead people remotely. What can you do to help? And this just started a cycle, and I will save you the details. But just to make the long story short, we decided to use our technology, Cassiopeia's technology, to empower remote leaders. And yeah, basically we have the privilege, and I'm very grateful for it, to empower so many amazing leaders
So cool.
and managers these days. So yeah,
that's fantastic. Talk to me a little bit about the onboarding process. I'm always curious about that. So you have this great platform. Basically every single company in the world is now a relevant customer for your platform. What's your strategy? Like, you're in March, you realize that, okay, this is my time to put on the gas. Like, let's double down and get there. What do you do as the CEO to make that happen?
Yeah. So first of all, to understand who's our early adopters,
Yeah.
and we are working mostly with tech companies in the UK, in the US, and we're working very closely with usually with R&D. So the VP R&D, or the VP engineering, the VP product, or the CDO.
Why is that?
And
Why more of the technical side? I would actually imagine that it would be more of the sales side or more of the product management part of the company.
yeah, so also product, we have also product teams. But the reason that we are working very closely with R&D and product is that usually the kind of insights we provide about collaboration, about communication, really affect directly on their performance, and it's really crucial. And also there's a lot of challenges working remotely for R&D and product teams. They need to collaborate all the time and be synchronized. So there's a lot of value that these teams just get from using Cassiopeia. And also it's usually, and if to be very direct and open about it, usually this is the kind of teams that are also very powerful within the company. So if they want to use
Right.
a tool, it's easy for them to buy it. So yeah.
So part of the strategy then is to go to these early adopters, these teams that have the influence within the company, go to this R&D manager, have them adopt within the team, hopefully have this then spread out inside of the corporation, and that way you're actually getting also exposed to different segments of the company that might not be incentivized from day zero to go into your platform, right?
Yeah.
That's so cool. Why so 3 years down the line, why are you still doing this? What's up ahead? I mean, what gets you really excited about Cassiopeia today?
Yeah. So I quit my job 2 years ago to just lead Cassiopeia full time, and it's basically the best ride I had.
Wow.
So I think you can learn so much as a founder, but also I think what I can say is that when you're very connected to your mission and very passionate about what you're doing, and also doing it with amazing people, there is basically, it's the ideal situation for me as a person. So I get a chance to work with amazing people, doing amazing things, build amazing products. So yeah, this is why I'm keep doing it.
And where are we headed in terms of remote work, collaboration? Do you expect that managers are going to have even more tools than what we have today? And is this going to somewhat also adversely affect the personal relationship between a manager and their employees? Because I'm imagining the more data they have in regards to, if my manager knows my promptness to communicate on Slack and whether I'm smiling or not, that could detach a little bit from her mission to personally get to know me, but more base her assumption of my behavior based on the analytics that you provide.
Yeah. So I would say that what we see as a trend here, and I think it's extremely interesting, that if you think about how companies used to know or understand their culture or identify problems in their dynamics in a timely manner, what we used to do is, as companies, is the beginning, we kind of perform some kind of a survey.
Endless surveys. I was just about to say,
Exactly.
in the army, every 2 minutes I had a survey to fill out.
Exactly. So you know what I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
usually it's some kind of external, kind of
Right.
consultant
Yep.
doing some surveys, and this was the first stage, right? And then the second stage was survey softwares like SHRM and Beacon. So companies can do it in-house, right? And both stages are more designed for HR people, human resource people. And this was great. And then the next stage was using more advanced data. So data like the network analysis, things that we are doing, more advanced data, also for software that are designed for HR and people analytics persons. So
Right.
you can see very complex dashboard with a lot of graphs, and you need to really dig into the data to get what you need. And now these days, what we notice is that now we are getting to the last stage, which is more people analytics platforms that are designed for managers. So because almost all communication shifted to online, there is more power for people analytics, for technologies that use this kind of information to get more insights. Also, managers are expected to be more like responsible for
Right.
employees' experience, as you mentioned. And definitely there is a need for it, because the work is so dynamic, and there are so many challenges. You can't really allow yourself as a manager just to use this survey once in a year or something like that to understand your team dynamic better. It doesn't make sense in today's atmosphere. So this is what we are getting into, some people analytics solutions that are more designed for managers. This is what we do at Cassiopeia.
And the employees have no problem with this, right? They're installing a software that basically allows their managers to get analytics based on their behavior. Is there any pushback from that, or do they just accept it?
Yeah, so you're touching really a crucial point. So when you're using data, and data, there is a lot of power there.
Right.
There is also great responsibility, and there is a big question about how to use this data. And what we do at Cassiopeia, we provide insights on on the team level or subgroup levels,
Okay.
like such as new employees. But we won't show, for example, that Dan is not talking that much with John this week.
Okay.
For example, so we're not gonna show any analytics that the manager is not aware of about specific individuals, because we want to make sure that people feel comfortable using the
Right.
platform.
And I think this is again one of the most fascinating examples that we're seeing more and more in the past 10 years or so, that we have the data, we have the insights, we're not allowing ourselves to know them, and these are insights that will make the workplace better. If somebody, if the manager did know that Dan and Hila are not speaking to each other even though they're on the same team, then then they could take some action to help correct that. But obviously, the drawbacks of having them be adversely affected by that knowledge and feeling that that's not no longer a safe space for them to operate, that is a big problem. Shiran, right before we leave, I have to ask you the most important question, and I'm gonna put you on the spot once. I need 3 words that you would use to describe yourself.
Wow, I think it's the most, difficult question.
And it's the most fun one of all of them.
I know. It's so hard. Okay, I will try. I think the first one will be a problem solver. I'm really passionate about solving problems, and maybe it's part of the reason why I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So definitely this is my first word. The second word, and I'm gonna cheat a bit, but I think it's about more pushing the limits.
Everybody's cheating on this thing. I have to find a better game.
So tempting. But I think it's about pushing the limits on a personal level, but also on a business level. I deeply feel that this is the only way to really to develop ourselves and to get to new places as business and people. So for example, I pushed myself a few years ago. I decided to run a full marathon, and
wow,
it was my first time, and this was an amazing experience. So I really try in my day to day.
I love it. Which marathon was this?
Tel Aviv.
The Tel Aviv Marathon. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I planned to do the one in SF, but it got cancelled. So yeah.
I actually ended up. I signed up for the Eilat Marathon of 2017, and only when I got there I realized that I signed up to run on dunes instead of a nice road.
Much harder.
It was an interesting experience, to say the least. I'm still doing exercises to relieve the tension, but it was a good experience no matter what. Shiran, very last thing. One advice you would give yourself, you didn't even talk about this transition from being a lawyer and you were dealing with IP stuff to being a product manager and then an entrepreneur. It doesn't sound like the natural transition for a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of product managers. What is a piece of advice that you would now go back to the Hebrew University where you were studying and give yourself, Shiran, this is my 2 cents from the future?
Wow.
This one might even be harder than the 3 words.
Yeah. You're really, pushing my limits here. So I would say keep an open minded. There's so many amazing things, and I was sure that I'm gonna be a lawyer or a judge, and was my my purpose in life. And I discovered there is amazing things, other amazing things that they're a better fit for me. So just to keep to be open minded about the opportunities. And to just keep learning. I think
I love it.
This is, the main thing.
I love it. Shiran, toda rabba. Enjoy Yellowstone, enjoy Oregon, and I love what you're doing there, and I can't wait to share this with the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.